For more on the situation at Apple, let's get our tech editor, Dan Howley, in the mix here. Dan, the market is somewhat shrugging this off. I'm surprised to see Apple stock only down about 2% in the pre-market.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't speak to any larger systemic issues with Apple itself. It really has to do with these isolated incidents as a result of the coronavirus. And I think people recognize that once this clears up, once the factories are up to scale and running properly, people can actually get outside and go to the store and purchase these items. And I think everything's going to be, back to normal more or less, save for the obvious guidance issue. But I think, in the long term, this will just be a blip on the radar for Apple.
But Howley, what does it mean though for the phones that we are expected to announce? So Apple is expected to announce a new line of phones this year. There's also rumors that they could announce a new, cheaper iPhone model this spring. Does that delay this at any point?
I think for the potential cheaper iPhone that's supposed to come out in March, that could be delayed just because we're so close to that time frame. And usually that's when they start to ramp up the production of those devices. For the ones that are going to come later in the year, the expected 5G iPhone that's supposed to be in September, November timeframe, that I think is still probably on course, just because they don't start really building those out until much later, much closer to the cycle. That's why we really don't see as many leaks as we might from something like a Samsung, for instance, which, they announce new phones and we see them months in advance. I think that's probably good for Apple because we're not going to get that kind of issue in the long term.
Dan, how brutal could the situation get for Apple's ecosystem of suppliers?
I mean, that's really the issue for them, right? They deal mostly with Foxconn. They're the main manufacturer of iPhones for Apple, but they do get plenty of devices built out from other manufacturers, and they use other manufacturers for their devices. For instance, they use Samsung, one of their chief rivals, inside their phones. So I think for them, it could be an issue going forward, considering how many iPhones they sell globally. And that's really what Apple's pointing out, is this isn't just isolated to China. This is going to impact the global supply chain. So anybody in the US, Europe, anywhere else, they're going to need to look and see if iPhones are available when they go to the store.
Dan, do you expect us to hear a similar message from some of the other tech giants that are out there as well?
Oh, yeah. This isn't just an Apple problem. This is going to be a problem for any manufacturer that has building factories in China, uses the supply chain through China to ensure that their devices are out on the market. I think it's going to be a larger issue for sure.
Isn't the larger issue also here, Dan, that why doesn't Apple move some of its production back to the U.S.? It may cost more, but at least they can better control the situation in the narrative.
It costs more.
I think more.
That's really the issue. I mean, they have obviously the Mac now, the Mac Pro out in Austin. They had that previously. They tried to have that factory do Mac Pros originally, and then there were major issues with construction there because there's not the robustness of a supply chain that they have in China. So it makes it kind of hard to build out here in the U.S.
All right. Well, Dan Howley. All right, thank you so much.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.